Diana Collins clutched her worn leather purse as she sat in the corner booth of Bellini's, an upscale Italian restaurant she could never afford on her kindergarten teacher's salary. The babysitter was costing her an extra hour's wages for every 30 minutes she stayed at this blind date, a date she was already regretting. Her friend Melissa had insisted that meeting someone new would be good for her after 3 years of raising her daughter Zoe alone. "Just one night for yourself," Melissa had pleaded. Now, as Diana checked her watch for the third time, she wondered if her mystery date had taken one look at her through the window and decided to leave. She couldn't blame him if he had. Her simple navy dress had been purchased at a thrift store, and though she'd spent an hour trying to style her unruly auburn hair, the humid April evening had already caused it to frizz around her face. The waiter approached again, his expression a mixture of pity and impatience. "Would you like to order now, Mom? Or perhaps another glass of water? Just 5 more minutes, please," Diana said, embarrassment heating her cheeks. She couldn't afford to order anything more than a side salad, which would make her look even more pathetic. Just as she was reaching for her purse to leave, the restaurant's atmosphere shifted. Several staff members suddenly appeared, their postures straightening as a tall man in an impeccably tailored suit walked in. He moved with the easy confidence of someone who commanded every room he entered. Diana watched with mild curiosity until, to her horror, the maitre d' began leading him directly to her table. "Miss Collins." The man's deep voice carried a hint of apology as he extended his hand. "Ryan Bennett. I apologize for my tardiness. Emergency board meeting ran over." "I hope you haven't been waiting long." Diana's mouth went dry. Ryan Bennett. Even she recognized that name. Bennett Enterprises was one of the largest real estate development companies on the East Coast, and Ryan Bennett was its notoriously private CEO. This had to be some kind of mistake or cruel joke. "There must be some confusion," Diana began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was supposed to meet a friend of Melissa Parker's, a high school math teacher named Ryan." A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "That would be me. Though I haven't taught high school in almost 12 years, Melissa is my cousin and she can be creative with the details sometimes." Diana's mind raced. Why would Melissa set her up with someone so completely out of her league? The disparity between them was laughable. He probably spent more on his watch than she made in 3 months. "I should go," Diana said, reaching again for her purse. "This is clearly not going to work." "Please," Ryan said, sliding into the booth across from her. "At least let me buy you dinner after making you wait. No expectations, just food and conversation." Something in his eyes, a genuine warmth that contradicted his powerful appearance, made Diana pause. She thought of her daughter at home with the babysitter and how she'd promised her a fun story about grown-up dinner. One meal, she decided. She could give this bizarre situation 1 meal. "All right," she conceded, "but I need to be home by 9 for my daughter." If her mention of a child surprised him, Ryan didn't show it. Instead, he smiled, a real smile that transformed his serious face. "Perfect. That gives us just under 2 hours to get acquainted." What followed was the most disarming dinner of Diana's life. Despite his wealth and status, Ryan spoke to her with a refreshing directness. He asked questions about her teaching and listened intently to her answers. When she mentioned her 5-year-old daughter, Mia, he didn't flinch or change the subject, but asked about her interests and personality. "She loves dinosaurs," Diana found herself saying, "and insists on wearing mismatched socks because life's too short for matching things." "Smart kid," Ryan laughed, and the sound was unexpectedly boyish coming from such a commanding figure. "My mother would have loved her. She always said conformity was the enemy of innovation." As their entrees arrived, Diana had allowed Ryan to order for them after he'd accurately guessed her preference for pasta. She gathered her courage. "Can I ask you something honestly?" Ryan nodded, his expression open. "I prefer honesty. Why did you agree to this? Surely you could date, well, anyone." He set down his fork, considering her question. "Would it surprise you to know that most of the women I meet are interested in Ryan Bennett? CEO, not Ryan the person? Melissa knows I've been looking for something real, and she speaks very highly of you." Diana still felt the imbalance between them like a physical presence at the table. "But we're from completely different worlds." "Are we?" He leaned forward. "I grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment in Pittsburgh. My mother worked 2 jobs after my father left. I got where I am through scholarships, student loans, and a lot of lucky breaks. The penthouse and private jets came much later." Before Diana could respond, a commotion near the kitchen drew their attention. A young waitress had dropped a tray, sending glasses shattering across the floor. The manager appeared immediately, his face rigid with anger, as he berated the girl whose eyes were filling with tears. Diana watched Ryan's expression darken. Without a word, he stood and walked over to the scene. She couldn't hear what he said to the manager, but his posture conveyed authority without aggression. Within moments, he had helped the waitress pick up the larger pieces of glass, spoken quietly to the manager, who now looked apologetic and returned to their table. "Sorry about that," he said casually, as though intervening in restaurant drama was part of his normal dinner routine. "What did you say to him?" Diana asked, impressed despite herself. "Just that everyone makes mistakes, and how he handles his staff's errors says more about his leadership than their service." Ryan shrugged. "Plus, I mentioned that I'm considering buying this building, which might have helped my persuasiveness." Diana laughed genuinely this time. "Is that true? About buying the building? I've been looking at this block for a mixed-use development, so potentially." He smiled. "But I wouldn't have mentioned it if he hadn't been such an ass to that poor girl." As their desserts arrived, tiramisu that made Diana close her eyes in pleasure, Ryan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Just work. One of our projects in Boston is having permit issues." He pocketed the phone without answering. "It can wait until morning." Diana checked her watch and realized with a start that it was already 8:40. "I should get going soon." "The babysitter—" "Of course," Ryan nodded, signaling for the check. "May I drop you home? My driver is waiting outside." The mention of a driver brought reality crashing back. Diana had taken the bus to the restaurant, planning to splurge on an Uber home if the date went well, but the idea of Ryan seeing her modest apartment complex made her stomach knot with anxiety. "That's very kind, but I've already arranged a ride," she lied. Something in her expression must have given her away, because Ryan's eyes softened with understanding. "At least let me wait with you until it arrives." Outside the restaurant, the spring evening had turned cool. Ryan draped his suit jacket over her shoulders before she could protest, and the weight of it felt both foreign and comforting. They stood in a silence that was surprisingly comfortable until a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. "That's not your ride, is it?" Ryan asked with a gentle smile. Diana sighed. "No." "Let me take you home, Diana. It's late, and it's the least I can do after being tardy." Perhaps it was the genuine concern in his voice, or the fact that she was already wearing his jacket that smelled faintly of expensive cologne, but Diana found herself nodding. As they settled into the luxurious back seat, she gave her address to the driver with a flush of embarrassment. "Thank you for dinner," she said quietly. "It was unexpected but lovely." Ryan studied her face in the dim car interior. "Would you consider seeing me again? Perhaps coffee this weekend? You could bring Mia if you'd like." The question caught her off guard. She'd been preparing herself for the polite goodbye, the "it was nice meeting you" that would close this strange chapter. Why? The word escaped before she could stop it. "Because in 2 hours, you've shown me more authenticity than most people I meet in a month." His gaze was steady. "And I'd like to see where that might lead." Diana looked at this man who existed in a world so different from her own, yet somehow saw her, really saw her. As the car approached her apartment complex, she made a decision that would change everything that followed. "Coffee sounds nice," she said, "but fair warning, Mia will interrogate you about dinosaurs and make you drink imaginary tea." Ryan's laugh filled the car. "I'll brush up on my paleontology and tea party etiquette." As the car stopped in front of her building, neither of them realized that this night was just the beginning of a story far more complicated than either could imagine. 3 weeks after their first date, Diana found herself sitting on a park bench, watching Ryan push Mia on the swings. Her daughter's delighted squeals filled the air as he sent her soaring higher than Diana typically allowed. It was their 4th meeting. Coffee had led to a children's museum visit, which led to today's park outing, and Diana still couldn't quite believe this was happening. "Higher, Mr. Ryan, higher!" Mia demanded, her dark curls flying around her face. "What do you think, Mom? Is this high enough?" Ryan called over, his tie discarded and shirt sleeves rolled up, despite having come directly from a business meeting. Diana smiled but shook her head. "That's the limit, unless you're planning to catch her when she jumps off." The easy way Ryan had connected with Mia surprised Diana more than anything. Her daughter was typically shy around strangers, especially men, but she had taken to Ryan immediately. Perhaps it was his willingness to get down on her level, to discuss dinosaurs with the seriousness of a paleontologist, or to eat imaginary cookies without a hint of self-consciousness. Whatever the reason, Diana found herself warming to him more with each interaction, despite the persistent voice in her head, warning her about the vast differences in their circumstances. As the afternoon sun began to dip, Ryan helped Mia off the swings and carried her piggyback to the bench where Diana sat. "Ice cream," Mia declared, pointing to a vendor across the park. Ryan looked to Diana for permission. When she nodded, he set off with Mia still clinging to his back, her small arms wrapped trustingly around his neck. Diana watched them go, a complicated tangle of emotions rising in her chest. It had been just the two of them for so long. After Mia's father had walked out when Diana was still pregnant, she'd built walls around their little family unit, determined to never again depend on someone who could disappoint them. Yet, here was Ryan Bennett, somehow scaling those walls without her noticing until he was already inside. "Your daughter is amazing," Ryan said later, as they walked Mia home, the child skipping ahead with sticky fingers and chocolate-smeared cheeks. "She's got this incredible imagination and asks the best questions." "She gets the question part from me, I'm afraid," Diana admitted. "I used to drive my parents crazy with why and how about everything." Ryan smiled. "That makes sense. You're a natural teacher." As they approached Diana's apartment complex, Mia ran ahead to greet Mr. Finley, the elderly man who tended the small garden by the entrance. Ryan slowed his pace, his expression turning serious. "Diana, I'd like to take you to dinner again, just us this time." She hesitated. Their previous outings had included Mia as a buffer, making it easier for Diana to pretend this wasn't really dating, but a dinner alone would feel more intentional, more real. "I understand your reservations," Ryan continued when she didn't immediately respond. "I know you're worried about our different lifestyles, but I'm not asking for anything beyond dinner and the chance to know you better." "It's not just that," Diana said quietly. "I have responsibilities that come first. Mia, my job, my students. I can't just enter your world." "I'm not asking you to." His voice was gentle. "I'm asking for a few hours of conversation without dinosaur interruptions." Diana couldn't help but laugh. "When you put it that way, how can I refuse?" The following Saturday, Diana found herself in an even more upscale restaurant than their first date. Despite Ryan's assurance that she should wear whatever made her comfortable, she'd spent her lunch breaks that week searching clearance racks for something appropriate. The dark green dress she'd finally selected had cost nearly a full day's pay, but as Ryan's eyes had widened appreciatively when she opened her door, she decided it was worth it. "You look beautiful," he'd said simply, and for once Diana allowed herself to believe it. At the restaurant, the staff greeted Ryan by name, leading them to a private corner table with a stunning view of the city lights. Diana tried to ignore the curious glances from other diners, focusing instead on Ryan's steady presence across from her. "So," he said once they were settled with wine in hand, "no dinosaur talk allowed. Tell me something about Diana that I don't already know." She considered for a moment. "I used to want to be a pianist. I played all through high school, even had a scholarship offer to a music program." "What happened?" "Life," she shrugged. "My mum got sick my senior year. I stayed local for college to help care for her, switched to education since it was more practical. After she passed, I was already on that path." "Do you still play?" Diana shook her head. "Haven't touched a piano in years. Our apartment barely has room for Mia's toys, let alone a piano." "That's a shame," Ryan said. And something in his expression made Diana think he genuinely meant it. "Do you miss it?" "Sometimes," she admitted, "when I hear certain pieces, but I love teaching. Watching a child understand something for the first time, that moment when their eyes light up with comprehension, there's nothing quite like it." Ryan nodded. "I can see that in how you are with Mia. You have infinite patience." "Not infinite," Diana laughed. "Just well practiced." "What about you? Did you always want to be a business mogul?" He grimaced at the term. "Hardly. I wanted to be an architect initially. I still design occasionally, but mostly I approve other people's designs now." "Is that why you stepped in when that waitress dropped the tray? Because you've been on the other side?" Ryan looked surprised that she'd made the connection. "Partly. I worked as a busboy all through high school, then waited tables in college. But it's more that I've seen how power can corrupt even good people. My father—" He paused, something darkening in his eyes. "My father believed that wealth entitled him to treat others poorly. When he finally struck it rich with an investment, he left us behind like we were part of his former life that no longer fit his image." "I'm sorry," Diana said softly. understanding better now why he'd been so matter-of-fact about his background. It was a long time ago. Ryan took a sip of his wine. But it taught me that character isn't about what you have. It's about how you treat people, especially those who can't do anything for you in return. Their conversation flowed easily through dinner, moving from childhood memories to favorite books to travel dreams. Diana found herself laughing more than she had in years, her earlier nervousness forgotten as Ryan shared stories about disastrous business meetings and his cousin Melissa's infamous matchmaking attempts. "You're her greatest success story, apparently," he said with a grin. "She texted me after our first date demanding details." "What did you tell her?" Diana asked, curious despite herself. "That I'd met someone genuine in a world of facades, and I was intrigued." His eyes held hers, and Diana felt warmth spreading through her chest that had nothing to do with the wine. As dessert arrived, Ryan's phone buzzed again. He checked it briefly, his expression shifting to one of concern. "Everything okay?" Diana asked, echoing their first date. "Not exactly." He hesitated. "Remember that Boston project I mentioned? The situation has escalated. I hate to cut our evening short, but I need to make some calls." "Of course," Diana said quickly, ignoring the flicker of disappointment. This was his reality, emergencies and interruptions. "I understand." Ryan signaled for the check, his distraction evident as he quickly signed the bill. Outside, he apologized again as his driver pulled up. "I was hoping we'd have more time," he said, his hand warm on the small of her back. "It's fine, really," Diana assured him, though she couldn't help wondering if this was a glimpse of what dating someone like Ryan would truly mean, always coming second to business crises. As they drove toward her apartment, Ryan made a quick call, his voice taking on an authoritative edge Diana hadn't heard before. She listened as he efficiently addressed the situation, giving clear directions that brokered no argument. It was like watching a different person emerge, the CEO who commanded a boardroom rather than the man who pushed her daughter on swings. When they arrived at her building, Ryan ended his call and turned to her with an apologetic smile. "I'm sorry about this. I had a very different end to the evening planned." "It's part of your job," Diana said. "I get it." He reached for her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "I'd like to see you again, both of you." Diana hesitated, suddenly unsure. She was already in deeper than she'd intended, already wondering what it would feel like when this inevitably ended. A woman with a kindergarten teacher's salary and a small apartment could only remain interesting to a billionaire for so long. "Ryan," she began carefully, "this has been wonderful, but I need to be realistic. Our lives are completely different. Eventually you'll—" "Don't," he interrupted gently. "Don't decide for me what I'll eventually do or feel. Just tell me if you want to see me again." Put that way, the answer was simple. "I do," his smile returned, relieving some of the tension. "Good. Because I have tickets to the dinosaur exhibition at the Natural History Museum next weekend, and I promised Mia we'd see the T-Rex skeleton." Diana laughed, despite herself. "Why you fight dirty, using my daughter against me? All's fair," Ryan said, leaning in to kiss her cheek. The simple gesture sent a cascade of warmth through her body. "I'll call you tomorrow." As Diana watched his car pull away, she couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental was shifting in her carefully constructed life. For the first time in years, she was opening a door that could lead to happiness or heartbreak, and she wasn't sure which scared her more. 2 months into their relationship, Diana found herself in unfamiliar territory, both literally and figuratively. She stood in the massive kitchen of Ryan's penthouse apartment, watching as he expertly flipped pancakes, while Mia arranged blueberries into smiley faces on the ones already plated. "I still can't believe you cook," Diana said, sipping her coffee from a mug that probably cost more than her entire dish set at home. Ryan grinned over his shoulder. "Mom insisted all her children learn. Said she wouldn't raise helpless men who expected women to feed them." "Smart woman," Diana replied, increasingly curious about the mother who had shaped Ryan into someone so different from what his wealth might suggest. It was their first overnight at Ryan's place. Well, Mia's first overnight. Diana had been careful to maintain boundaries, insisting on separate bedrooms and explaining to Ryan that she needed to move slowly for her daughter's sake. He had respected her wishes without question, setting up a guest room for Diana and transforming his home office into a magical space for Mia, complete with dinosaur bedding and a nightlight that projected stars onto the ceiling. "Mr. Ryan, can we go swimming after breakfast?" Mia asked, her face sticky with syrup. The rooftop pool had been the highlight of yesterday's tour, and Mia had talked about nothing else since. "Absolutely, Princess," Ryan answered, using the nickname that had developed between them. "But remember what we discussed about pool safety?" Mia nodded solemnly. "No running, no going near the water without a grown-up, and always wear my floaties." Diana watched their interaction with a mixture of joy and trepidation. Over the past weeks, Ryan had become increasingly integrated into their lives, attending Mia's kindergarten graduation, helping with weekend errands, even sitting through animated movies on their small couch with Mia nestled between them. The ease with which he'd adapted to their modest routine still amazed her, though he occasionally surprised them with experiences they could never afford. Front-row seats at a children's theatre production, a helicopter ride over the city, dinner at restaurants where the staff greeted Ryan like family. Yet for all his efforts to bridge their worlds, moments like this morning, standing in his penthouse with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, sharply highlighted the disparity between them. Diana earned in a year what Ryan probably made in a day. While he never flaunted his wealth, it existed as an unspoken presence in their relationship. After breakfast, as promised, they headed to the rooftop pool. Diana sat on a lounger watching Ryan teach Mia to float on her back, his strong hands supporting her tiny body as she giggled nervously. The trust between them touched something deep in Diana's heart. Despite her reservations, she couldn't deny that Ryan had become important to both of them. "Look, Mommy, I'm a starfish," Mia called, spreading her arms and legs wide as Ryan slowly removed his supporting hands, letting her float independently for a few seconds before catching her again. "Amazing job, sweetheart," Diana called back, snapping a photo with her phone. Later, as Mia napped exhausted from swimming, Diana and Ryan sat on his balcony enjoying the rare, quiet moment. "Thank you for this weekend," Diana said, watching the city sprawled below them. "Mia hasn't stopped smiling since we arrived." Ryan reached for her hand. "Having you both here makes this place feel like a home for the first time." The sincerity in his voice made Diana turn to study his face. "You're really serious about us, aren't you?" "Completely," he answered without hesitation. "I know it's been fast, but Diana, what I feel for you and Mia—" He paused, seeming to search for the right words. "It's more real than anything I've experienced before." Before she could respond, his phone rang, the specific ringtone he'd set for work emergencies. Ryan checked the screen and sighed. "I'm sorry, I need to take this. It's the Boston project again." Diana nodded, having grown accustomed to these interruptions. As Ryan stepped inside to take the call, she gazed out at the skyline, contemplating how drastically her life had changed in just a few months. For years, it had been just her and Mia against the world. Now there was Ryan, with his gentle strength and unexpected kindness, offering them a glimpse of a different future. Ryan's raised voice from inside drew her attention. Through the glass doors she could see him pacing, his expression tense as he argued with someone on the phone. This was a side of him she rarely saw, the powerful businessman whose decisions affected thousands of employees and millions in investments. It was a stark reminder of the responsibilities that came with his position, responsibilities that occasionally pulled him away from their budding family unit. When he returned to the balcony, his expression was troubled. "Everything all right?" Diana asked. Ryan ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she'd come to recognize as a sign of stress. "Not exactly. There's been a major issue with the Boston development. I might need to fly up there tomorrow." "Oh!" Diana tried to hide her disappointment. They had planned to visit the botanical gardens tomorrow, an outing Mia had been anticipating all week. Ryan must have read her expression because he quickly added, "I want you both to come with me." "To Boston?" Diana blinked in surprise. "Just for 2 days. I have meetings most of Monday, but we could explore the city in the evenings, maybe visit the aquarium on Tuesday morning before flying back." His eyes held a hopeful look. "The company jet makes it easy, and the hotel suite has plenty of room." Diana hesitated, processing the casual mention of private jets and hotel suites. "I don't know, Ryan. I have work on Monday, and Mia has school." "One day won't hurt," he pressed gently. "Wouldn't it be nice to have a little adventure together?" The excitement in his voice was contagious, and Diana found herself considering it. One missed day of kindergarten wouldn't affect Mia's education, and Diana rarely took personal days. "Let me think about it," she said finally. Ryan smiled, clearly taking her non-refusal as a positive sign. He leaned over to kiss her. a soft, promising touch that still sent butterflies through her stomach. They were interrupted by the balcony door sliding open as Mia emerged, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "I had a bad dream," she mumbled, climbing immediately into Ryan's lap as if it were the most natural place for her. Diana watched as Ryan wrapped protective arms around her daughter, whispering reassurances and stroking her hair. The sight filled her with both warmth and fear. Mia was getting attached, perhaps too attached, to a man whose world was so different from theirs. That evening, after a dinner ordered from Ryan's favorite restaurant, they settled in the living room for a movie. Halfway through, Mia fell asleep against Ryan's chest. The domestic tranquility of the scene, her daughter peaceful in Ryan's arms, the three of them cuddled on his enormous couch, created an illusion of permanence that both comforted and terrified Diana. "I should put her to bed," she whispered, reaching for Mia. "Let me," Ryan said, carefully standing with Mia cradled against him. Diana followed as he carried her daughter to the dinosaur-themed bedroom and gently tucked her in, even remembering to turn on the star projector and leave the door cracked exactly how Mia preferred. Back in the living room, Diana found herself drawn to a photograph she hadn't noticed before. A woman with Ryan's same intense eyes, her arm around a teenage boy who was unmistakably a younger version of Ryan. "Your mother?" she asked when he returned. Ryan nodded, his expression softening. "Taken about a year before she died. Cancer. I was 19. "I'm sorry," Diana said, understanding the loss all too well. "She raised an extraordinary man." Ryan looked at her with such intensity that Diana felt her breath catch. "I want to show you something," he said, taking her hand and leading her down a hallway to a room she hadn't seen during their tour. He opened the door to reveal a music room dominated by a gleaming grand piano. "I remembered what you said about missing playing," he explained, as Diana stared in wonder. "I thought maybe you'd like to try again." Diana approached the instrument reverently, running her fingers lightly over the polished keys. "Ryan, this is... I don't even know what to say." "You don't have to say anything, just play something, please." Hesitantly, Diana sat at the bench and positioned her fingers over the keys. It had been so long, but as she began to play, the muscle memory returned, a simple Chopin nocturne that had once been her favorite. The notes filled the room, tentative at first, then growing in confidence as she lost herself in the familiar melody. When she finished, she looked up to find Ryan watching her with an expression that made her heart race. "That was beautiful," he said softly. In that moment, something shifted between them. Diana rose from the piano bench and moved toward him, all her careful boundaries temporarily forgotten, as she reached up to kiss him properly for the first time. Ryan responded immediately, his arms encircling her waist and drawing her closer. When they finally separated, both slightly breathless, Ryan rested his forehead against hers. "Stay with me tonight," he whispered. "Not in the guest room." Diana hesitated only briefly before nodding. Whatever fears she had about their different worlds seemed distant compared to the connection she felt with him now. Later that night, as Diana lay in Ryan's arms, her phone buzzed with a text message. Assuming it was from the babysitter who occasionally checked on Mia, she reached for it. The message was from an unknown number. Does he know about Jason? About what really happened before you left Philadelphia? I wonder what the famous Ryan Bennett would think if he knew the truth about the woman he's falling for. Diana froze, her blood turning to ice. There was only one person who could have sent that message, someone she had hoped would never find her again. "Everything okay?" Ryan murmured sleepily beside her. Diana quickly put the phone down, her mind racing with panic. "Fine," she lied, her voice remarkably steady despite the terror gripping her heart. "Just the babysitter checking in." As Ryan drifted back to sleep, Diana stared at the ceiling, the perfect evening shattered by 6 simple sentences. Her past, which she had worked so hard to escape, had finally caught up with her, and now it threatened not only her safety, but also the fragile happiness she had found with Ryan. The next morning, Diana moved through Ryan's penthouse in a fog of anxiety, her mind constantly returning to the threatening text message. While Ryan prepared breakfast with Mia, she slipped into the bathroom and reread it, searching for clues about how her past had resurfaced after 3 careful years of hiding. Jason Walsh had been Mia's father, charming, volatile, and ultimately dangerous. Their relationship had spiraled from passionate to possessive to abusive after Diana became pregnant. When he'd threatened both her and their unborn child during a particularly violent episode, Diana had finally gathered the courage to flee Philadelphia in the middle of the night, changing her last name from Walsh to her mother's maiden name, Collins. The restraining order and the state lines between them had kept her safe until now, but somehow he had found her. "Diana." Ryan's voice through the door startled her. "Pancakes are getting cold. Coming," she called, quickly hiding her phone and plastering on a smile that felt like it might crack her face. Throughout breakfast, she barely tasted the food, nodding mechanically at Mia's excited chatter about their potential trip to Boston. Ryan kept glancing at her with concern, clearly sensing something was wrong. "Are you feeling all right?" he finally asked as Mia left the table to get dressed. "Just tired," Diana lied, avoiding his eyes. "Listen, about Boston. I think we should stay home. I have some lesson planning to do, and Mia really shouldn't miss school." Disappointment flickered across Ryan's face, but he nodded. "Of course, whatever you're comfortable with." His easy acceptance only increased Diana's guilt. Here was a man who respected her boundaries, who had welcomed both her and her daughter into his life without hesitation, and she was hiding a significant part of her past from him. By early afternoon, Diana had manufactured an excuse about a colleague needing lesson plan help, and Ryan had driven them home with a promise to call later. The moment they entered their apartment, Diana checked all the windows and doors, drawing the curtains tightly closed. "Mummy, why are we playing hide-and-seek?" Mia asked, misinterpreting her mother's actions. Diana forced a smile. "Not hide-and-seek, sweetie. Just keeping the apartment cool." That night, after putting Mia to bed, Diana sat in her small living room and considered her options. She could run again, find another city, another name, restart their lives from scratch, but the thought of leaving Ryan created a physical ache in her chest. Or she could stay and face Jason, but that meant risking not only her safety, but also Ryan's reputation if her past became public. The third option terrified her most of all. Tell Ryan the truth and hope he would understand. But how could she explain that she'd been lying to him from the start, that the woman he thought he knew was built on carefully constructed half-truths? Her phone buzzed with another message from the unknown number. "TikTok, Diana." Or should I say, Diana Walsh. "Either you meet me tomorrow to discuss terms, or I go to your billionaire boyfriend with everything. Central Park, noon, by the boat pond. Come alone." Diana's hands shook as she deleted the message. She wouldn't put it past Jason to make good on his threat. He had always been vindictive, especially when he felt wronged, and she had certainly wronged him in his eyes, taking away his daughter and disappearing. After a sleepless night, Diana called in sick to work and arranged for Mia to spend the day with Melissa, ignoring her friend's curious questions about the emergency request. Then, with dread weighing her steps, she made her way to Central Park. She spotted him immediately. Jason hadn't changed much in 5 years. Still handsome in a sharp, predatory way, he sat on a bench watching the model boats drift across the pond. Diana's stomach clenched at the sight of him, memories of terrified nights and bruised arms flooding back. "You look good, Di," he said as she approached, using the nickname she had once loved and later learned to fear. Billionaires must pay better than kindergarten teaching. "What do you want, Jason?" Diana asked, remaining standing to maintain some semblance of control. His smile was all teeth. "Just to reconnect with my family. I've changed, you know. Been through anger management, therapy, the works. I want to meet my daughter." "That's not happening," Diana said firmly, though her heart hammered in her chest. Jason's smile faltered. "I have rights. I'm her father. You have no rights, not after what you did." "It would be your word against mine," he countered. "And I have friends who would swear I was the model boyfriend, that you were unstable, prone to making things up. Imagine how that would look to your fancy new man." "What do you really want?" Diana demanded, cutting through his pretense. Jason leaned back, dropping the act. "Money. Your boyfriend has plenty, and I want some. Consider it back child support if it makes you feel better." "And if I refuse? Then I go public with everything. Your real name, the lies you've told, some embellished stories about your mental state." He shrugged. "How do you think the business press would react to Ryan Bennett dating a woman with a fake identity? Think his shareholders would appreciate the scandal?" Diana felt cold despite the warm June day. "I need time to think." "You have until tomorrow," Jason replied, standing to leave. 100,000, and I disappear forever. Small price for your happily ever after." Diana watched him walk away, her mind racing. She had some savings, but nowhere near what he was demanding. and going to Ryan would mean confessing everything, a prospect that terrified her almost as much as Jason's threats. When her phone rang an hour later and Ryan's name appeared on the screen, Diana nearly didn't answer, but avoiding him would only delay the inevitable. "Hey," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Diana, is everything all right?" Ryan's concern was palpable. "Melissa mentioned you asked her to watch Mia for an emergency." Diana began, then stopped, the lies sticking in her throat. "Actually, no. Everything's not all right. Can we talk? In person? I'll be at your place in 20 minutes. True to his word, Ryan arrived quickly, his expression grave as Diana let him in. She had spent the intervening time steeling herself for what needed to be done, knowing there was only one path forward, however painful. "What's going on?" Ryan asked, taking her hands in his. "You've been distant since yesterday. Whatever it is, we can figure it out together." Diana gently pulled away, needing distance for what came next. "I haven't been completely honest with you, Ryan." She told him everything. Her real name, her relationship with Jason, the abuse, her escape with an unborn Mia, and finally the blackmail attempt. Throughout her confession, Ryan's expression remained unreadable, though his eyes never left her face. When she finished, the silence stretched between them like a chasm. Diana waited for his anger, his disappointment, his withdrawal. What she didn't expect was his first question. "Are you and Mia in danger?" he asked, his voice tight with controlled emotion. Diana hesitated. "I don't think he would hurt us physically. He's too smart for that. But emotionally, financially, he could make our lives very difficult." Ryan stood and paced the small living room, his tall frame making the space seem even more confined. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" The hurt in his voice cut deeper than anger would have. "I was afraid," Diana admitted quietly. "Afraid you wouldn't understand, afraid it would change how you saw me. And then as time passed, it seemed harder to bring up." Ryan stopped pacing and knelt in front of her chair, taking her hands again. "Diana, nothing about what you've told me changes how I feel about you. If anything, knowing what you've overcome makes me admire you more." Tears Diana had been holding back finally spilled over. "But the scandal, your company—" "Let me worry about that," Ryan said firmly. "What matters is keeping you and Mia safe." "He wants money," Diana confessed. $100,000 to disappear." Ryan's jaw tightened. "And you believe he'd keep his word?" "No," Diana shook her head. "He'd just come back for more eventually." "Then we handle this differently." Ryan pulled out his phone and made a call. "Jack, I need a background check on a Jason Walsh from Philadelphia. Everything. Criminal record, financial situation, current employment, associates. Yes, it's urgent." After ending the call, Ryan explained, "Jack heads my security team, former FBI agent. If there's anything in Jason's past or present we can use as leverage, he'll find it." The swift, decisive way Ryan took control of the situation both relieved and alarmed Diana. "What are you planning?" "First, we document everything, the texts, your history, the blackmail attempt. Then we meet with my attorney to discuss restraining order options across state lines." His expression softened as he added, "And tomorrow I'd like you and Mia to move in with me temporarily, where my security team can ensure you're safe." "Ryan, I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm offering." He cradled her face in his hands. "Diana, I love you, both of you. I was planning to tell you this weekend over a much more romantic dinner, but it seems more important to say it now. I love you, and nothing in your past changes that." The words she had both longed for and feared washed over her. "I love you too," she whispered, "but this is a lot to take on." "That's what you do when you love someone," Ryan said simply. "You stand beside them, especially in the difficult moments." 2 days later, Diana sat in Ryan's attorney's office listening as the imposing woman explained their options. Jack's background check had revealed that Jason was currently on probation for assault in a bar fight. A violation of the terms would send him back to jail. Additionally, he had outstanding gambling debts that explained his sudden need for cash. "We have enough to go to the police with the blackmail attempt," the attorney explained. "Combined with the previous restraining order and his current probation status, he's looking at serious consequences." "I don't want Mia's name dragged into this," Diana insisted. Ryan squeezed her hand. "She won't be. We'll handle this privately first." That afternoon, Jason received a visit from Jack and another member of Ryan's security team. Diana wasn't privy to the conversation, but Ryan assured her that only legal means of persuasion were used. The evidence of blackmail, combined with the threat of probation violation charges and a very public lawsuit from one of the country's most powerful businessmen, proved convincing. By evening, Jason had signed a legally binding agreement relinquishing any claim to contact Diana or Mia, in exchange for the blackmail evidence remaining private. He left the city the same night. "Is it really over?" Diana asked, as she and Ryan stood on his balcony that night, the city lights twinkling below them like earthbound stars. "Yes," Ryan assured her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Jack will monitor him to ensure he stays away, but I don't think he'll risk crossing us again." Diana leaned back against Ryan's chest, allowing herself to truly relax for the first time in days. "Thank you. For everything." "No more secrets between us?" Ryan asked gently. "No more secrets," Diana promised, turning in his arms to face him. "Though there's one more thing I should probably tell you." Ryan raised an eyebrow questioningly. "Mia asked me this morning if you were going to be her new daddy," Diana said, watching his reaction carefully. "I told her we'd talk about it as a family." The smile that spread across Ryan's face was answer enough, but his words confirmed it. "Nothing would make me happier." 6 months later, Diana stood in the back of a small chapel, her hands smoothing the simple white dress she had chosen for the occasion. Through the doors, she could see Ryan waiting at the altar, handsome in his tailored suit. Beside him stood Mia, serving as their flower girl and ring-bearer combined, practically bouncing with excitement in her emerald green dress. The past half-year had brought changes Diana could never have imagined. She had finished the school year at her kindergarten, but accepted a position as Director of Education at Ryan's new foundation, which funded arts programs in underprivileged schools. They had moved into the penthouse, though Ryan had surprised her by purchasing a weekend home in the countryside, complete with a garden for Mia to explore and a music room where Diana's playing had flourished once more. Most importantly, they had built a family, not without challenges but stronger for having weathered them together. As the music began and the doors opened fully, Diana took her first step toward her future, toward the man who had seen beyond her circumstances to her heart, and the daughter who had taught them both the true meaning of love. In Ryan's eyes as she approached, Diana saw what she had always hoped to find but never believed possible, a love that accepted all of her, past and present, exactly as she was.